Hey guys, how's it going? In today's video, I'm going to show you a case study one more time, but this one is slightly different because we will be stuck in Google Sheet. So if you do not like Google Sheet, if you do not like scripts, this video will not be for you, unfortunately. But if you do enjoy that, then make sure to stay tuned because we are going to build a tracking system for a course creator that had no budget. So the challenge was strong, especially when you will see the requirements. Make sure that you have a cup of coffee because we're gonna deep dive into it right now. So let me just share my screen and show you a little bit what we're having today. So the first thing, the context. So what do we need to do exactly? So I had this conversation with this client that came to me and I said, look, I'm using system.io, which is a kind of ClickFunnels equivalent, and I need to track the commission made by the two persons that I have with me, my business partner, and one of the vendor that they have, one the salesperson, the sales rep. But the thing is, like, up to now, I was like, okay, that doesn't seem like very complicated what you try to achieve. But that was just the first part. That was just the context. I need to create a commission tracking system. And I do not have budget, okay? So what's next? Next is the requirements. So what were the requirements? First of all, the sales are made by either the partner, so the business partner, or the vendor, right? So up to, right now we're good, that's fine. Now we know that the payments they processed on the first of the subsequent month, which means that right now, if it's the month of February, the next payment commission will happen on the 1st of March. But then what she explained to me was like, because we have a 2 weeks cancellation policy, that means that we cannot pay the commissions until 15 days pass by in order to validate the sale. So that means that we will pay the commission from the 16th of January until the 15th of February. So now we start already having like this filter by dates that complicates a little bit the entire process. And she said that also the partner commission rates are affected by the chosen payment terms. And so I was like, what do you mean exactly? So there's different payment terms. You can pay in 1-time payment, 2 times, 3 times, or 5 times. And based on what's selected, then it's going to change slightly the way we operate and we pay the commissions on a monthly basis. So I asked her to break me down a little bit about the commission. So how do we deal with the commission? Explain to me, how does it work? So basically for the vendor, the commission are structured based on the sales volume that this person will do every week. So every week they will run a webinar, and before they run the webinar, they need to collect leads and send those leads to the webinar. And basically this salesperson that does this as a commission calculated on a weekly basis, which means that if she's managing to have 2 sales made during the week, she would get 10% on the total amount of the sales for the week. If she managed to generate between 2 and 5 sales, that means that she has 2 sales with 10% commissions, but then she has 2 to 3 sales with 12% commissions. And the last part is if she managed to generate more than 5 sales in the same week, then she can get up to a 15% commissions on those extra sales that have been made. Which means that the next week, we start again from 10% commission per sale until she reaches like the new threshold, which is 2, 5, and more than 5, basically. So that was the first commission structure that we had to take into consideration for the vendor. And then we have the commissions for the partner. So the partner, the business partner, has a different way to earn commission. So the partner, first of all, earns 20% commissions on all the sales based on predefined prices. And this is after cost deduction. So what does that mean? I don't get it. What does that mean? Explain to me. And she was like, so basically, if the client decide to pay everything in once, then the partner get 20% of 800 euros. It doesn't matter the price of the course that's been sold. So if the course is sold for 1,000, the partner just get 20% of 800. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. I'm just telling you what we had to deal with. Then there's a two payments. So the two payments was 20% of 428 euros. So this is very precise. So that means that, for example, if a sales has been generated in February in two payments, so the payment has been split in two. So there is 428 euros this month and 428 euros that will be paid the next month in March. And for the partner, it will take 20% of the payment the first month in February and 20% in March, right? But that means that we also need to divide the amount of the commission that will be paid every month, because you can't pay entirely the commission if the payment is split, because we're not sure yet that the payment will be collected the next month. So this is something we had to take into consideration. Then 3 payments. Now we can see that the based price for it will be 300 euros. And now we divide this 3% across 3 months. So this will take us, if we're in February right now, that will take us to April, right? February, March, April. And you have the 4 payment, which is actually not even 4 payment, which is actually 5. So I get this one wrong, but that's okay. And so we have the 5 payments. And so the 5 payments, it's 20% of 180 euros per month over the next 5 months. So now you start understanding that, okay, it sounded a bit like easy, but actually there's a lot of variables that we need to take into consideration in this case. So I'm just going to pick a random example right now. Let's say that we have a sale that's been made for 997 euros. That's the magic number. If the vendor had done these sales, basically he will get 10% of it. So that will be 99.7 euros. If it was the first sale of the week or the second sale of the week, that's it. That's what he would get out of this sale. If it was the partner that would have made this sale, he would have had 20% of 800 euros, which means that in this case, that will be 160 euros, assuming there were no cost. Because if you remember well, his commission, the partner's commission, is calculated after we have deduced the cost. So this is a concrete business case, something I had to deal with. So now that you're up to date, let's talk about the tech stack that we're going to have today, because remember, this is a no budget. So we need to find something that will do this without budget. So could not use AI, because you can literally create an entire prompt like this, put it in the LLM model, train your model, and then every time it will give you an answer. But if we have no budget, then we can't really do this, because you still need to have an API key and you still need to have a bit of money just to run it, right? So we are going to use Google Sheet. And here it was connected to system.io. I'm not going to cover system.io, because this is just like a landing page tool that will allow us to push the data through the Google Sheet, because most of the work will happen actually in Google Sheet. So with that being said, what's the overview? So the process, straightforward, very simple. Got my data in system.io, push it through Google Sheet, and here we are. And so this is what we have now. So basically, the way I structure the dashboard here, just to give you an overview, and then we're going to jump into the different tabs and how it works. We know that we need to know the cost of each month in order to calculate the vendor commission, because the whole project is about helping me tracking the commission. So based on all the info that we have, we know that we need a place to calculate the cost, the monthly cost. So this is basically the tab that we have here, where the person will be able to add all the cost, and that will be calculated on a monthly basis. Here we will have the total. So everything is in French. It was for French client, but I will translate everything anyway. Then we have a filter here. I just added a little tab, little extra, just to see the revenue. That was not really what was needed, but I was just like, this can be cool as well to see the revenue per month, per year, basically. Obviously, then later you can add all the graph, you can build something much nicer, all that stuff. The most important part was just like here, having the right amount for the commission for the vendor and for the partner. And in this tab, so this is the most important tab. And in this case, we have already set up the context, which is what needs to be paid, for example, the 1st of March, because this will use the current date and saying, okay, if we're in February, we know that we need to calculate the commission for the 1st March. So the payment, what will happen the 1st March? Because basically after the 15th of any month, there won't be any more sales added to this calculation because it will wait for the next month to be able to display the data for the month after, because we just pay, if you remember well, from the 16th up to the 15th. And so basically here is gonna wait for March to display then what will be paid for April, which means that the number will not move after the 16th of March, for example, or February in this case. With that being said, here I have a database row, which is the tab where I'm receiving raw data. And here I have an example of what the data looks like coming from system.io. So I have here the first name, last name. Here I have the timestamp, which is the moment the sales has been made. Here I have an email, and I have the total amount that will be sent. And I have then the explanation about what's the product and what's the payment facility. So as you can see, it's not really easy to deal with. In order to add a bit more complexity, it's like we literally have a sentence that tells us the name of the product that's been bought. Here we can see the one because it's a one-time payment, and we can see the amount of the payment that was made. So the first thing that we had was, okay, I need to deal with those data and extract what I need because I can't work with any of those data. So for example, here, I don't even have the name. I don't have the last name. I mean, I have them in the same cell, but it's too hard for me to try to work with this together. The time is not really easy to use that way. I do have an email, which is great, but then same thing here, the price is in cents. How I'm going to deal with that. And then we have here we have the name of the product that's been bought, the payment facility, but well, we can't work with that. This is impossible. So the first thing that we are going to do is to format the data. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how it works. So I'm going to copy this like if a cell was just made. So I'm just going to copy that right here. And we will have an entire script now that will be running. So I'm just going to add it twice for the first line because everything is starting in F2. There you go. So now I have my raw data, and what's happening in the database formatted is the first thing that I've done is already split everything that we have in order to extract what I need. So I'm extracting the year, I'm extracting the month, I'm extracting the week and the day. All of that from the timestamp that we have, and I keep the timestamp here just in case. I just have it here and I just reformat it. Then I'm going to split the name and the last name. So already that gives me a bit more visibility. So I can also use that in order to double check. And I'm using the email as well in this column, extracting the price, already formatting it in euros and not in cent. And here the name of the product and who's made the sale, the partner. So how does this work? First of all, how do we know who made the sale? Because what's happening is the vendor, every time the vendor makes a sale, the vendor is has his own Google Sheet and write the name of the person that she had during the week before they went through the webinar. And so the vendor already has like a list of contacts. And if we see that those contacts made a sale, then we'll be able to know that this person has been referred by the vendor. So that's the reason why here we have a vendor tab. In this vendor tab, basically the vendor has access to it. It can write an email. And in this email, if the email is matching, then we will know exactly that this person has been referred by the vendor, right? So this is how it works. And if not, that will be the partner by default, because the sale they either made by the vendor or they made by the partner. It's one of those two. So if it's not the vendor and the vendor has this Google Sheet list, then we know it will be the partner. So in order to perform already just this task of splitting the data and assigning this, I will show you the script that I had to use because there's no formula really in this sheet. It was too complicated to do this with formula. There's too many things involved. So it was like easier to use a script. Just before I do so, let me show you the training tab, because the training tab is basically all the different courses that this person will create during the year or for the next few years. And what's happening as well is when we split the data, we're checking if there is a match in a product name with one of the training that has been created. And if it's the case, then here we write directly the product name, which is the training. So this is the same thing, but this is how we do a match. Basically, the person has to provide here the different training that she made. And then here we'll be able to know what product has been sold. And that will allow us later on, if we want to track as well how many sales or how much commission have been paid per different courses, right? So with that being said, let's jump into the script. So that's going to be the fun part. And this is what the script looks like. So as you can see, this is a bit dense, but we have two functions here. We have one function here, and we have another function that stops at this line right here, 115. Which is the second function that I will cover just after. So first of all, here, all of this is what we had to do in order to make this happen. So the first thing that we do is already defining the different sheet that we have, saying that we have raw data, and then we want to create the different columns, split everything that we have in the raw data database, and then import all the last row that will be added to the raw database. So right here, every time there's a new row that is added, then we want to trigger literally this entire script. And so this script will allow us to split those data. So you can see, for example, here you have the full name that's coming from the row column names, right? So the database, the raw database that we just saw. And we're going to do a split, and we do a split by the space. So we're going to divide those two names. And then we're going to have the first name that we're saving and the last name that we're saving as well in the variable. And those are the data that we basically were structured in order to create the new formatted database. So this is the first part of it. And so this is what needs to be done in order to create the new file, the new database. So it's going through this entire piece of code in order to use all those data and split them, restructure them, and make sure everything will look good. So this is basically a very specific case. So obviously can't really use this code for yourself, but just having an idea about what it looks like. But mostly also understanding the different steps that we have. So here we have the database formatted. This is good, but this is still not enough for us to calculate the commissions part. Well, remember, because the commission need to be calculated based on the week, based on the day, based on the month as well. And the main idea for me was like to divide the database for different reasons. One, because if I have everything in one database, if there's something is wrong, it's going to be really hard to then trigger and know exactly what went wrong in it. But if I have different databases, then I know I can split the different part of it, and I can know exactly what's wrong and what's not wrong, because maybe something can happen at some point, or we need to add an extra feature. And it's always easier when you have different modules in order to do it. And so that's the reason why once this has been made, then I have another trigger, and this trigger will create the sales breakdown tab. And so the sales breakdown sheet basically is this breakdown that we need right now in order to calculate the commission. So the first thing that we do is we need to find the year, the month, the week, and the day. Who's the vendor? What's the amount? The adjusted amount, which is, for example, if you remember, for the partner, this is not based on the value of the sale. This is based on a fixed amount that's been set up before, which was 800. The commission as well, and the name of the person concerned, the client, so we can also do a matching by row. So that was the idea of this sheet. And so in order to do this, I'm going to add some other rows so you will see how it works. So the first thing here, I created 4 rows in this database row. And here in the vendor, I just added the emails. So I added the emails just to make sure that we will be able to assign those cells to the vendor directly. So let's go back to this tab, the database row. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the John Doe, and John Doe, I'm going to copy paste it. So first of all, imagine we just receive another cell. And right now we know this cell has been made by the vendor. So we want to confirm as well that this is going as expected. Then I'm going to add another cell made by John Doe too. Yeah, John Doe. John Doe want to buy this course today. Then I'm going to make another sale made by John Doe 3. And all of those John Does, they actually, they've been identifying by the vendor, and they've been, they made the purchase, right? So in the database formatted, what I can see right now, everything has been broken down into different columns. The John Doe 3 has a different payment facilities as well. So this is good. Everything has been reported as expected. We can see the vendor as well. And the sales breakdown, what I have right now, if I take my John Doe, there's 5, the payment has been split into 5. So we have February, March, April, May, June. And now we have the weeks, we have the days, we have the vendor, the amount, right? The payment month, that's good. The commission. So because it's the first sale here, the commission is 10%, right? Because we know, we calculate this commission based on the sale that we have from this file actually, because we're checking if the year, if the month, if the week are identical, and if there's more than 2, then the commission rate becomes 12%. If there's more than 5, then the commission rate becomes 15%, right? And then if it's less than 2 or 2 max, then it's 10% by default. So that's what we've been doing now. And so basically right now, because it's my first sale, it's 10%. However, when I check the John Doe 2, that becomes my second sale on the same week. And right now, I can see this is still 10. However, the last one, John Doe 3, is my third sale of the same week. And now I can see my commission has been updated, right? So that's what we can see right here. That's been updated. So this is good. That means that it's working. And that's why it was very important to have this kind of intermediary sheet in order to already format all the data that we need to know in order to calculate the commission. Because if we do it on the spot to do the calculation, if there's an error or you need to debug whatever, that just become a complete mess. And so now, for example, I'm just going to change here. So I had the John Doe 4. I'm going to delete this email, the John Doe 4 email. I'm going to delete it. So that means that if this sale is generated, it's not coming from the vendor. So I'm going to add it here. And when I add it here, what's happening now in the sales breakdown? So we see that he has been added. Now we can see the vendor is a partner. We can see that the amount is 100, but the adjusted amount is 428. And it's 428 because if you remember well, the payment commission was based on the fixed base salary rather than the course price. So I put 100. Obviously, as you can imagine, the price will be 1,000. It will be more. But here, what we have in the adjusted amount here in the amount adjusted column is we have the 428 and the commission rate is 20%. And now that's been assigned to John Doe 4. And the payment is in two times, which means that February, current month, and March. And so this is what this sheet allows us to do to already have all our data structured in the right way. So we will be ready to use them when it's needed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check the dashboard section because this is where the magic happened, right? So in the dashboard section, we have different elements that we need to take into consideration. The first one is, if you remember, for the vendor commission, we need to deduce the cost before we start calculating it, right? And so this is what's happening here. So here we have this space where all the expenses can be added. And that will be on the monthly basis, which means that every month you need to update this number in order to have the final vendor commission. Because if right now, for example, I have this amount that is 1, if I put 100 here, then I can see here there's 10 euros that I can see here that the amount, was updated. So here, if I put 1,000, for example, now I'm in negative. So here there's nothing happening. So this is very important as well to have this element running in order to calculate correctly the commission that we will have for the partner. And for the vendor, there's no need because everything is already calculated before, right? That's what we did. And so the formula here, for example, for the vendor is basically us going through. So the offset function will allow me to, because we add data in this database from the top. That means that when you have a cell, that's basically this cell will come from the top and not from the bottom, because when you want to check the last cells. You don't want to check the cells from the previous month. So rather than scrolling down, you have everything that keeps being adding up at the top. But the issue that we have when we do this is every time there's a line that's been added, then here I have all my columns, they start moving, which means that if I was just doing F2 till F, the entire column, then when I add another line, then the F2 becomes F5, for example, or the F3 or whatever. And so using the offset will allow me to define the starting point of this calculation, which is F2 in this case. And the F2, if you remember well, the F2 is the amount, where for the other one, we will use the G2 because we need the adjusted amount. We can't just use the amount directly. And so with this being made right here, so that's what that's what we do basically. So we define each column and then we are counting how many cells have been generated. And then we will multiply this by the I2. So the column in I2 is literally the commission right here. So that's what we do. So each line, for example, that we take, each amount will be multiplying by the commission rate and will be sum up in order to give us the commission that needs to be paid by the, that needs to be paid to the vendor basically. But the other thing that is very important is we also need to do a filter by vendor. So right now we're checking the column an E, because it has to be vendor. It can't be like partner. If it's partner, it should not be included. And then we need to add another filter, which is going to be about the date. Because if you remember well, we need to pay only the commissions, not only that happen the same month, but happen up to the 15th of the month, starting from the 15th of the month before. And this is what we do here with those two lines, which is taking into consideration the date and the month, right? But also the year, because it's like if you this file is being using next year, that you just want to make sure that the year, the sales from last year will not be included in this year. So we need to include the year as well. And here we have the part with the days. So this is where we say it has to be before the 15th, for example. That's what we define. And then it's also divided by 100, just in order to remember that those are percentages. And when you look at the column here, the commission was not written in percentages. I mean, it was written in percentages exactly. It wasn't like a decimal number. So that's the reason why we also need to perform here the divided by 100, just to make sure those are percentage. So that is the way we calculate the vendor commission here. And for the partner, this is kind of the same thing. So it's actually easier. This one is kind of easier because what we do is we take all the amount generated in G2 right here, and we're counting everything, and then we deduce the D9. So the D9 is the total spending that we have here. That's what we do. So we deduce that, and then we will perform the same request that we did before, which is checking the date. So we want to make sure it happens before the 15th. We're going to check the month, and we want to check the year as well, in order to make sure that everything fits within this time range. So that's what has been performed. And basically in the script, you had this first function, that I remember that was doing like the first formatting. And then the second function here that allow us to then have this data in order to work with it. Basically, that's what we've been doing here. So it's adding a row. It's like there's all the different type of formatting. So for example, here, this is where we define the adjusted amount. So here, if there's an edit that needs to be made in the future, this is where we can change the criteria for whatever reason they want to renegotiate. And then basically, it's like the breaking down as well of everything, of every single columns that we need, and how to fill them up. We also have a trigger that's been added. So the trigger has been added in Google Sheet, and this trigger is based on the change. So I didn't take edit because edit will always use any cell, but change is when something is added or deleted. And there is in this script as well a possibility to check if a row already exists in order to not perform the task twice. But yeah, so basically this is what needed to be done in order to do it. And the end result is what we can see right now. So the end result is the ability to have the commission based per the different vendor partner. And here in the total revenue here, so then you can just literally update the month, and then you have like different numbers. The commissions remains the same because the commission they're based on the current month. It's not based on this month. And basically that's it. So that was just like the little breakdown of this case study, how this has been built. Hopefully you find it interesting. That's always a lot of work. Like in Google Sheet, this is always complex to think about all of those scripts or this thing to connect together in order to get the result that we want. It's doable, but obviously it's always harder to maintain this in the future. I think this is great when you want to go from 0 to 1. But then as soon as you start having a bit more budget, it's better to invest in different tools that will simplify also the entire process. Another thing that is very important that I didn't mention, but it's like when you need to automate a project like this one, basically you need to understand everything because you can't just make it up. Like you need to take into consideration everything that is happening. And so one of the things that is very interesting from maybe an architect perspective when you do this is the fact that you just realize that this company is not making a lot of money right now. We probably under the 50K a year, but the complexity that they have had in their operation is unnecessary. It's unnecessary right now because if adding so much complexity prevent you from tracking your own sales or doing it in a way that just costs you hours every week, then maybe this is not where your time should have been invested. You should have just kept something simple, try to get more clients. And when you have more clients, have a different system that will allow you to have a structure that is slightly more complex. But right now it feels like when you just look at this and you just think that, okay, this is a company maybe run by 2 or 3 people, the complexity that they have right now is it's not worrying, but if it is what you have right now, what is it going to be when you want to hire a new sales rep? And basically your old sales rep wants to earn more. And now you have a different commission system because why should the new sales rep be paid the same as the older sales rep that's going to close more deals, right? And then you start realizing, man, if I need to update all of that all the time, then that's going to be a lot more complex. And I think it's very key to always stay simple. In this case, the idea was just, okay, this is the prime that I got. So this is the prime I received. I need to fix it. I'm going to fix it the way it is now. But also the other approach is like the way I build this right now, or the way you structure your business in order to provide those commissions will be really hard to scale, keeping the same system and keeping it this way. And that's just what's very interesting about operation as well. And that will be also part of the takeaway from this case study. So the budget, as you understood, it was free basically with Google Sheets. So that's how you can do it. So Google Sheets is still like a very powerful tool that will allow you to do crazy thing. You can do like massive dashboard. I used to have my first business that's been automated with Google Sheets. And we passed the 300K a year just with Google Sheets. So it's definitely doable to run a business with it. It's not it's not the best tool from 1 to 2, but from 0 to 1, you can already do a lot with Google Sheet. But once again, back to the takeaways is if you can avoid it, maybe sometimes it's better. Just starting is fine, but as soon as you need to optimize it, then maybe thinking about maybe something a bit more robust that will allow you to go to step 3, 4, 5 will probably be a better investment in terms of cost or time that you invest in building your structure. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video. You've learned some stuff and you've seen as well like how I've been able to build this in Google Sheet. If you have any questions, just feel free to drop them in the comment or to message me. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and let's cover more business cases. And I'll see you in the next video.